Okay, well, here we are for our stand-up. Um, I have Kate as the first one over there and on my screen. So what do you got going on, Kate?
I don't really have anything. I haven't been here in a while, so I thought I'd come in today.
All right. Well, we're happy to see you. Um, and we can talk about all sorts of other things at Casual Friday. Because I'm sure there's all sorts of fun things going on. Michelle.
I can't remember. I literally, life's a mess. Yeah, I don't know. Working on issues in assembly line and the toolbox. Still recovering from the blow to the testing framework. So trying to think about the best way to the best way to change the interface so that it is least painful for test developers. Yeah, I think that's about it for me. We cannot hear you, David.
I can confirm that it does not seem to capture this wonderful layout in the recording. Because I can preview the broadcast. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch us back to good old gallery view.
That's fair.
So there we go.
Much better.
Yeah.
So and I'll put us back in the order that I saw there. All right. It was fun for like 30 seconds. It's a nice idea. That being said, Lisa, you are now up next in this ordering.
Hi. Well, I've been belatedly plowing through your, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yay. I'm plowing through y'all's resources from the boot camp. I have access to the screen that'll give me interviews, like to let me access the available interviews, but
Yeah,
I was
you need
trying
to
to
ask for
get
your permissions to be raised to developer.
I thought she did with the boot
She
camp
did?
already. You might not be. Have you tried logging in?
for
Lisa?
another time in Playground, I guess, and GitHub. I thought I created a GitHub account way back, so I was trying to get them to resend my password, but I might have done that way back, and then it might be my own misdoing that I'm not accessing it correctly now. So these are all things I'm sure I could overcome, but I don't want to take the whole group's time to
Sure.
do that.
Maybe you and I can talk
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably pretty easy fixes.
And make sure that you're
I was starting at
Well, I
square
heard
one
you for a
and going
moment,
through.
but, yeah.
I wanted to do Hello World, and then I was frustrated.
All right. Yeah, that's a frustrating experience. All right. So
Yeah.
so hit me up and we'll talk afterwards if my
Okay.
cat dentist doesn't call me away.
All right. Well, Cat Dentist, that has given us something to talk about during Casual Friday.
Yes.
Lisa, anything else you'd like to bring up though?
Not too much other than I really enjoyed participating with other people on their forums, especially on translation issues. And I just attended a pretty interesting session hosted by the Louisiana Supreme Court. I won't go into too much detail. They're translating our civil code into Spanish.
Interesting.
Do like French and English system. So it brought up a lot of interesting issues regarding translations that came up during our discussion. So if anyone, I know it's not directly related to this technology, but if anyone confronts any of those, I'd be happy to share some of those resources and connections. And it just kind of reinforced some of the kind of common themes that we all confront there. So that's one thing. I'm really in plain language usability, translation, idiom, and
You've got some kindred spirits here. So
yay.
I think you'll find fertile ground for that. All right, cool. Quentin.
all right. I might do a little show and tell if people are up for it, if there's enough time. So far, it seems like
I like
we're
show and
making
tell.
progress. So I have been doing a lot of back-end stuff, but this is the part that's relevant to everybody on our current sprint. This is the new footer element here and what that looks like. these little icons. Feedback just takes you to the regular feedback form. We just shorten the text for that. Got this about button here now, which takes you to a screen which shows some of the things that I think we might want to put here. We might want to decide like how important some of them are, change the ordering, and have more room for custom about this form. Like one question I have is, would this be an appropriate place to show people the original form that got automated? I think maybe it could be. And we do have that information captured in the Weaver right now, but I think most people leave it blank. But what this does is it checks to see the last time that there was a commit on GitHub, and it shows that date here, which is not perfect. But I think together with the version of the form, it's relatively helpful information.
And how does it pull the contributor names?
Contributor name comes from the metadata on that particular form. So it's something that would need to be updated, and we might want to add a place for people to do that in the Weaver. But I think realistically, there are going to be additional contributors throughout the course of you working on the form. So people will need to have some way to edit that, but it'll be nice to have a placeholder, if nothing else, so that people know where to add their additional names and can figure that out easily. So yeah, kind of excited about this. Although I think it needs a little bit of work still in terms of like structuring order, and maybe we hide some of these things behind an extra button because they're not that important. Maybe adding additional images. And then here is like a really basic share feature, which is not that great right now. But first of all, I think probably I'll want to hide these until you choose one of these choices. But when you choose tell a friend, you can either copy the link, and Michelle, what she mentioned earlier is she's working on improving the design of this so that this isn't supposed to be down there, but you can copy it to the clipboard if you want to share it yourself, or you can use this interface here to tell somebody about the form. And you can either send them a text or an email with a link to the form. And then you can use the same interface to share your current progress in the form. So that's more like attorney advocate communication. So once we have this feature, I think we could like kind of de-emphasize some of the signature, that featured on the signature page, which I think Caroline, you had pointed out some readability issues with, like a little confusing for what people get to that screen.
Quentin, can I ask you a question about this screen?
Absolutely.
So the little piece that says, or send an email or text message from inside our app.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the person why you're sharing this tool. That's in addition to, so you do either, you do radio button 1 or 2 under what do you want to do. And
right.
This is just like an additional message that goes along with that, right? Is that right?
You have to make 2 choices. So, and that's part of what I'm saying. Like, this is a little bit of a mess right now. Like, I don't like the visual layout of it. But first you decide, are you just telling someone this tool exists because they can use it for their own need?
Yeah.
Or are you sharing your actual progress with somebody? Those are really 2 distinct actions. But I think it makes sense to like have one share button take you there, just because it's hard for people to understand which one is which.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get here, then you have to choose, do I want to use like copy and paste the link and send it myself? Like maybe I want to put it on Facebook and tell people about it, but I'm not going to put a Facebook share button in our app because we don't want to share all this information with Facebook, right? But maybe someone wants to do that on their own. So they can choose between that mode of sharing or texting or emailing it to somebody.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. So those,
Yeah.
Right. So you pick, okay, right.
Yep. So that could be another radio button. That was one of the designs I considered. But it felt like it would be burying the action that people wanted to take under too many clicks. Let me see. Maybe it's worth looking at how I did this on Made. I forget. That's not great either, but it's a different way of doing it.
And this is a different kind of sharing than the multi-signature sharing, which is, I mean.
Correct. This just takes someone right to the place in the interview that you were, whereas the
Right.
signature flow is a little bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the screen
Where
for me.
where you were or where you currently are, because if you continue in your interview, won't they end up going to where you are?
I think that's like
currently?
probably like too specific a detail there, but I think
Okay,
the
I'm
difference
just
is
curious of the
with the
functionality.
signature flow, the multi-signature tool that you built, you go to a specific screen which is meant for the person who you shared it with, right? Whereas with this,
Yes.
it just is sharing it's like basically as if someone else joined your session at the exact moment. I don't remember if it will, I think it does not show you the share screen anymore once you get the link, from what I remember, but I can't remember for sure.
And does the person you share it with then have right access to the form?
Yes. So that's what this note is here. So it's like, there are all these things you want to do. At first I had this as a checkbox you had to acknowledge before you could continue. But that felt a little bit heavy-handed.
Yeah, maybe definitely some more bolding, or I was worried about the person who goes in and hits the back button. Although we do call it undo now, so.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like warnings we can do. We just have to decide which ones are worth taking up people's attention on the screen. But here they are side by side. This is the tool that I built for Made, which is also very basic. So this is a different design here. This was just right click and copy versus an input. You can click a button to copy, which I think is a little bit easier.
I do like, I prefer the word interview over tool.
Yeah, we just aren't using the word interview as descriptive of any of the things.
Yeah, no, I know, but tool is a really odd word. I mean,
Whenever
I think we could
say
use interview.
I will tell you, whenever I say interview to anyone, they don't understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I
Define my
agree.
terms.
It took me a long time to switch from the general public's understanding of interview, because interview to people, mostly they think a job interview. Okay.
I think both terms, I think there are pluses and minuses to both terms. I think you might want to use a word like resource, because interview has a very specific meaning to us. That's not the same meaning it has to the general public. So it might just take a little work. But as far as the format, the QR code is good. I think regular folks who are less tech literate will prefer the outline on the left, at least the left on my screen, the share this tool page, as opposed to the share this interview page, because it's a little less intimidating. Some people see that big blob of QR code and they get confused. So but that might not be your experience with user testing.
This was never tested on the right. This was, and I designed both of them, and this one more recently. So I think I had the same suspicion. I think also the QR code use case is not that common. It's like, that's like more context switching, like switching from your computer to the phone. You want to like take it with you. But I'm not as worried about that use for our job.
I think people like the radio buttons and the share this, whatever you decide to call it. As soon as people see what do you want to do, I think then they'll have an idea, that, oh, we're sharing this, so I think that'll help. I just think the one on the left's a little easier for people to use maybe than one on the right.
Yeah, I really like this generally. I think this is really nice. I think it offers a really good way, like, so throughout the interview, you could say, if you want to share this screen, click the share button below, or you can still reference it as you need, but then it's also an option that's there, discoverable to people. Yeah, as far the share this tool, share this resource debate, all I say is I'd say share this point in the interview, or this page, or this screen in the interview. That might be a good thing to call out. But I mean, I think it's all just nitpicky stuff.
It wouldn't share that screen in the interview.
Yeah, when you click on the share my answers in progress. I just want to call that out as something that's very clear that's being on. Because it just right now just says the person who shares this.
A website might be good.
I was just about to say website.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what a website is. And I also agree. I think QR codes are confusing.
Yeah.
Too.
And to my earlier point, about sharing my answers in progress, I just make it clear that you're sharing the like last screen you were on when you click on that option as opposed to the first one. It was just a nitpicky little thing. I'm just throwing it out there as a thought.
I'm
general-
trying to say that it won't share the specific last screen you were on, from what I understand.
It
It
will
only
if you click on the share my answers in progress with someone.
Not
Isn't that the use case?
That is
No,
exactly the use case. Yeah.
but it doesn't, when I have tried to share before, to share a specific page, when another person goes back to it, if I have progressed, so if I've gone to page 5 and I link them on
Alright.
page 3,
Okay.
they will see page 5,
Show
they
where-
won't see page 3.
I see what you're saying.
The point is, my point is just that we need to make clear what the behavior is, as opposed to just saying share the interview. So that's a fine point that the nuance to say, share the screen I was just on or the most recent screen viewed, or I mean, it's kind of
follow along.
some complicated.
Let someone join your interview. I don't know. I
like
I
that.
think the most important part of it is that someone understands that person can see what they've done and change it.
Yes, I agree.
I think that's a
I think this is
fantastic
enough.
tool.
Let someone edit my interview, or whatever we call
Or
it,
my answers.
my
Yeah,
answers.
I like the join.
I
but
like
edit,
join
yeah.
too. Yeah.
Well, I
I think
think it's really important that they know that person will be able
No,
to
but I don't
change.
think we're saying that join
can
would
have
be the
help
only
text.
thing we say. I think we'd say join and then explain what that means.
Yeah, we can have extra
Um,
help text what exactly it is, but
I mean, I just don't want all of our nitpicking back and forth on the language to
Sure.
obscure the fact that I think this is really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I think
Yeah.
we're just,
Yeah, no, I mean,
we're agreeing
I-
that it needs some
I think
wordsmithing,
we
that's all.
have talked about this functionality for a while, and then it was like too hard to design. So I welcome feedback. I think like we can't do something until people have a prototype. It's really hard to imagine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I think we
That's
just need to get this.
definitely
I want to
true.
say, when you guys are ready to roll this out, this is so awesome for the legal aid world, because as you know, what you could do is you could link up a person needing help with some remote helper who could, there have been some projects in the past that have done this, but like volunteer attorneys or something, or volunteer people, just people like maybe who could help somebody, like might even be something that doesn't even involve legal advice. Like there are all kinds of things people can need assistance with, especially if they have limited literacy or English skills or whatever. This is going to be amazing, I think.
Yeah, so that's definitely like the use case that we have in mind. So
Mhm.
but yeah, I think that's totally right.
I really like the footer. It's great. I just have one suggestion on this this share screen. Maybe like you said earlier, Quentin, to add a second radio button for
Add the radio
if they
button.
want to.
choose between the two.
Yeah, choose them so that they don't see everything right in front, and that's too much to take in at the first glance. If we just show the two radio buttons, and then when they click something, you show more, that's more progress.
I'm definitely
I
happy to
agree
give that a
with
try.
Lily. Yeah.
Something I was
the
thinking
same
too.
thing.
Other people have the same thought?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Then yeah, I might give that a try then before even, but yeah, obviously this is not gonna be set in stone whenever it's done, but I think we just really can't decide until we try it. Let's try something. So cool. Yeah, and people like these one word. I wasn't not sure about icons, but I think the icons are helpful here.
Do they need to enter their name if they've already, I guess if they haven't already entered their name, there's some kind
It
of probably
defaults to
useful
their name.
defaults, yeah.
But we don't want to let people send anonymous emails
Yeah.
that seem to come from us.
And that feedback's the standard feedback form that we did have before.
Yep, same feedback form, which then needs to change too, but that's not really part of this pull request. If
I
people
think this
have
looks
ideas
great, Quentin. I would
and
love
want to
this.
change this about screen and think about what
Yeah.
goes here, that's like another thing for people to think about.
Yeah, I really love the about screen because of the giving credit for contributors. It's something we have talked about for a long time, but finding a way to do it, I think, is really great.
Now, can I see it from the user point of view? I mean, maybe from a user point of view, maybe move the authors to the bottom
I think that's,
rather than the first item.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So especially, you've got your copyright down there. I also think that names on their own, I mean, Another reason to move it to the bottom is to put more information in there, but names on their own don't necessarily mean anything. But if
Right.
you could associate them with the program or the law school or something, I think that then it's a lot more powerful, because the names on their own don't really mean anything to anybody.
So yeah, that's a good point. So I think we could have those linked to people's GitHub profile.
I was just about to, I could tell we're moving this direction. I don't think we should do that, because I think like that's going to be, if people stumble across this instead of feedback, they will use like whatever contact means to find a person that they can.
Which leads to my suggestion, which was to add feedback above the names. So it's like, if you want to, like just a second link to feedback. So like, if you want to if you have some feedback, here's a link to sort of cut off those folks.
Does that mean I have to constantly check my GitHub, but I'm not working every day?
What if, I mean, you have it going to GitHub. That's probably the easiest thing to do, but you also have bios on the Suffolk Lit Lab page. And I wonder if that might not make more sense. Then you don't have to say what organization people are associated with.
I don't know. I still think Bryce's ideas.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think we need to have the bios here. I think it's nice so that people know that they have ownership and they can point here if they want to in whatever context they want. But yeah, I get anxious about people tracking.
And I have this in two parts.
This isn't working. Or
this is going to be a template where like people could change. They could add like form specific stuff above the standard stuff too. So
you're thinking move the feedback question to the top. And put the names at the bottom linking to GitHub, like just above the 2021 copyright thing. Is that right? That to me, that makes sense, that the names go along with the Suffolk copyright.
Yeah, to me too.
I think names make more sense at the top. It just seems natural. Like that's where you put a author. I don't know.
Well,
that was my original thought, but
yeah.
I'm open to other ideas.
Guys, it depends on what we think the about page is being used for.
Yeah.
If people are using it because they want to know what version they're having or when it was last updated, then that second graph is the one that you want at the top. I am very cognizant of Bryce's concern about the people who would hit the about page and then trying to seek out the authors to ask for additional special pleadings.
Yeah, like I really would not want my GitHub profile linked because it links to my personal email, which was a mistake, but it is that now.
Yeah, so the problem is going to the GitHub repo, then they could follow from there. I mean, it's
good, but I don't want to make it easier.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think names down.
I can tell you, I get like 10 emails a week from someone who just randomly found me and is involved, like the AG's office and everybody in the world in their dispute that they lost like 2 months ago. Anyway. I was gonna say,
for example, like I'm looking at like the Firefox about the app Firefox, and they have like the version number at the top, followed by like Mozilla Mozilla Firefox, followed by like Mozilla is designed by or Firefox is designed by Mozilla, and like the community with like links to those. And so I feel like it's not as I feel like it's pretty normal to link like last updated with some information about the project and then like authors, since the authors of Firefox are essentially the global community link in that case.
Okay.
Is there a way for Kate to change her email address from her GitHub account to her work email address?
She can hide her email address on her GitHub profile. I know that's something.
And you can change some other things, but you like any commits you have already made to like interviews and stuff won't be able to change.
Yeah, I mean,
there are ways.
Well, we can change them for you. We can take it out of there for you.
I mean, I don't care that much. I just don't want to
make it easy.
Too.
You want to make it easy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes sense, but it seems like it's like a tidying thing. You know, it makes sense if we can do it and to do it now rather than 4 years. I mean, it's going to be less to do if we do it now rather than later, and it just seems like something that ought to be done.
I would say now as in today, it would be at least a little bit of work. It's not like as easy as we can.
Yeah, I don't
guide you
mean
through
this
right now,
minute.
but
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
mean instead of 4 years from now,
Well,
it's like,
changing her email address, the one that's on GitHub or wherever it is, that's super easy. Erasing
Yeah.
her stuff from history will take longer, but we can start with the smaller
Right.
stuff.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, is to change your email address as soon as you, not like emergency, but just that sooner rather than later, and then deal with the history when we get to it, as part of the cleanup. If we have housekeeping days or something like that, little tasks to get caught up on.
Okay. Generally, I love it. So
Yeah, and please, like, the motivation was to get people something to look at. I got some great feedback today, and I'll try to incorporate that, but it's not the end of the story. So
are you thinking you are going to link to the what the PDF looks like as well, or the package or something on that about
I think we're not ready for that, but
Yes.
it's something to think about and figure out where it fits in.
I think the about page would be a good place to do that.
Yeah.
It does
seem based on whatever.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, cool. Well, I'm glad you decided to share. Lily.
Oh, I really don't have much update. I just work on the backend issues.
All right, cool.
Maybe just one general question. We were working on multiple issues, and then for each issue, we want to set up a separate PR. But if I putting two PR out there, the code changes just got mixed up in both PR. So I don't know how to separate that. I mean, if they're dealing with, well, it doesn't matter. Even the changes for PR1 is in one file. In one file, the changes for PR2 is in another file. But when you view the changes, it still gives you both files, and it looks like you changed both files.
So I can tell you how I would handle it. I mean, one thing is just to make the PRs and make one PR to the other PR, to the one PR, like, it's too complicated. You could just make both PRs and we could just, look at them individually, as it were, pretending it's individual. Another thing to do if you ever get, into a similar situation is you make two separate branches and two separate projects, one where you edit one file and one where you edit another. And sometimes when I want to break up those changes, I will, like changes that have already been done, I'll remove I'll make another project and pull in the branch, and then I'll remove the changes of one file in one, remove the changes of the other file in the other, and make a new branch with that, with that new project, so that you have two branches that only look like they've each had their files changed. But it would take, copy pasting the old file for whatever file it takes some work, right? So if you want to do it now, it's going to be some work, but.
I know, I actually, I tried all of them. I think one thing I did find, which was a painful discovery, is that if I have two packages of the same code, but I make different changes, the DocAssembly playground somehow got confused, and the changes are made in one package got mixed up with another one. Sometimes it doesn't refresh, and eventually I said, forget it. I'm not going to keep two branches on the same playground anymore.
Another solution, Lily, if it's easier. So I usually pull in from main for each change and make sure each change doesn't conflict. But if you're having trouble with that, you could also just make a series of pull requests where one's a pull request off of the other. A little bit.
That's what I was describing in the beginning, and I can show you what that looks like, Lily, if you want.
I mean, right now I did two, and then I put a comment in the second. I said, okay, ignore the other changes. They are for different PR. so I'm doing. But
Yeah.
maybe we can, on Monday, we can discuss where you can show me the screen and see what's the best way to do.
The cleanest is definitely if each change you do standalone. But if you have like a bunch of small changes that are all related, it's okay to put them in one PR. It's really just a matter, like if they really all depend on each other, you can put them in one PR. It's just to try to make them each actionable. So like if there's a problem with one, but you want one of the other part, that becomes harder to merge. So think about like that pain of like, do I want all of this to be rejected if one piece isn't done yet? Or do I want the piece that's more important in first? That's kind of the drawing, the border.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Thank you all. I'm done.
That's right. Yeah.
Wasn't able to do much in the last couple of weeks, so I dove into the 209A, which I was supposed to catch up with. Michelle helped me figure out the verb thing, but with the children. So if we had, depending on the kinds of minor children you had, we wanted to get the language right in the affidavit. And so we did that, and then I hit a bug this morning that fortunately wasn't mine. And Quentin and Michelle solved it. So that got sorted. But it was good because I'm doing this really thorough testing with the solution that Michelle came up with, and it's showing that the other solution I fixed, where with the advocate is on behalf of plaintiff or guardian, there were certain things that I hadn't caught when I thought I had that working, certain things I hadn't caught that were really obvious that were typos. So I'm doing a really thorough thing on the children. And then Kate and I talked a little bit on Teams this morning about, I know what the questions are for if the advocate is filing on behalf of a parent or guardian, or the child has a parent or guardian helping them, but I wasn't sure. I thought through all that and then I forgot, I don't know what the plaintiff confidential information form is supposed to look like. So I think, Kate, we're agreed that you just put in 1 or 2 addresses and contact and stuff like that for the, if you're having this the advocate doing the form. So I just, so that's where I am. I'm driving to Colorado tomorrow. So I'm going to be probably not doing any work for 4 days. And then I'm hoping on Wednesday I'll be able to start working again.
Cool. Bryce.
Yeah. So still did a handful of Weaver setup stuff, and the only thing I am sort of stuck on now is that I don't actually think there's a way to programmatically commit files from the playground, because I right now have like a little like command line script that you run that then you can either like bump a version, either like just a patch version, like a minor version or a major version. It asks for like what the changelog is to migrate. It makes a tag, pushes it to GitHub. It and it also sends a little message to Teams that says, hey, there's a new version, and like just automatically links to the tag in the repo on Teams. And I was going to make that, because it's mostly an issue of like that runs on a repo, but we have a lot of different repos that we will probably want to bump versions on for things like this. And so it'd be easier if that was just like an interview that you go through that says, I want to bump this repo. And there's
So
like yeah.
If this is on the playground and not in a GitHub action, I have
It's
a
on
whole,
a playground.
if it's in, yeah, then I have a whole thing that I've done with GitHub stuff, and I can show you how to make commits. There's a great library for it.
Okay, cool.
So
yeah,
it might be,
nice. I'd love to look at that.
easier. What?
Yeah, I'd love to look at that if we get the chance.
Sure.
Because that would be very nice, because I can't find anything that's actually documented in DocAssembly for making a commit. But yeah, and then also doing some Tyler stuff still. At Quentin's suggestion, I've started like a Trello, since we've gotten to the point where things are relatively like well structured at the beginning. We were sort of like not trying to still figure out what we needed to do, or like what steps were next, but now it's relatively well structured. So I'm starting a Trello. It's still in progress. When it's less in progress, I will start inviting people to take a look at it, because right now it's just sort of like one task is like make the server or make the REST server, which is like a lot of smaller tasks. And so we still need to break some of those down, but otherwise doing good on that. And that's
Moving along. Stay the course. Steady as she goes. I'm trying to say something inspirational. All right. I think that sort of takes everything back up. As people probably noticed in the chat, we didn't win the SLRN Forms contest. Quentin's got us signed off. I'm going to actually have to sign off too. I'm at a conference right now.
Okay.
But,
The other form was really slick, though. That
it was slick.
cool.
What was the other form?
It was another. It was an abuse prevention order. Yeah.
Quentin linked it, so you
Yeah,
should
there's a
take
link.
a
I'll
look.
look for it, yeah.
And you know, there was another award we didn't win because someone else did a thing last year, which was also that. Except I'm willing to bet that ours was done for a lot less money than anyone else's, since no one paid anything for our form. But anyhow, maybe a lot faster too. I'd be surprised to think that a lot of those things hadn't been in the works for long. At least I know the DC one wasn't the one that won the other award last year. I think it had been 4 years in the making. Anyhow, I've got to go. I'm sorry, I have a coughing fit. But I'll leave Bryce as the arbiter of all things. Oh, I'll cut the recording.